as you are aware, and many people are aware, in May of last year, it was on May 3rd was the earliest. Like I could find the actual instance of them saying it. Sony announced that they would be limiting Helldivers to having to sign into a PSN account. They claimed that this was the plan from the very beginning, that they had said that this was the plan from the very beginning, and that in order to play, you'd have to have a PSN account. The unfortunate side effect of that is not only do you have to make a secondary account if you don't already have a PSN account, and not only do you have to do all the obnoxious stuff of trying to log in and get your account, blah, blah, blah. It's a pain in the ass. But also there were a lot of countries, like 130, 170, something like that. Some over 100 number of countries that you just cannot have a PSN account in. But because of the fact that they released the game to everywhere in the world on Steam, there were people in those countries that did in fact have had bought Helldivers and were expecting to be able to play Helldivers, and were effectively told that they weren't going to be able to anymore. Sony claimed that this was the reasoning that Sony gave for why they were requiring a PSN account login makes some sense to me, of the fact that it was, hey, we need a way that we can, holy fuck, what is that? We need a way that we can easily prevent abusive players, prevent griefing players, prevent trolling by having you signed into a PSN account. It makes it a lot easier for them to ban players that are being problematic, and easier for them to review, like, ban appeals for players that are like, hey, I got banned, but I shouldn't have been banned, kind of thing. So that makes sense. That makes very good sense of why they would do that to me. Like, okay, I can get behind that. The problem is that they allowed people to buy the game that were going to ultimately not be able to play the game. They got mad at the CEO of Helldivers when he said, hey, when he originally said, hey, don't buy the game until our servers are getting ready because our servers are really fucked up right now. And then two, when he said, hey, if you want to play the game, just set your location to somewhere else. If you use a VPN, or if you set your actual location to somewhere else, you'll be fine, because that breaks Sony TOS, and the people over at Sony got mad at him, etc., etc. Within 3 days, they backtracked. Within 3 days, the public outcry of, what are you doing, Sony? This is ridiculous. Why are you all of a sudden telling all these people that they can't play this game anymore, or they will have to sign into a PSN account to play the game? They backtracked. They said, okay, we're no longer going to put in the PSN requirement, but they did ban all those countries where a PSN account would not be available. You'd not be able to get a PlayStation Network account. Which to a lot of people, and to me included, seemed like they were just gearing up to eventually make that PSN account thing a thing again. And they wanted to make sure that these countries that did not have access to that would not continue to buy the game, save themselves a lawsuit, save themselves grief and trouble, and blah, blah, blah. I said before that if they had said it from the beginning, that if they had it set from the beginning that you need a PSN account in order to buy this game, you need to have a PSN account, there was some safeguard to prevent people that couldn't actually get a PSN account from buying the game and wasting their money, then I would have been all for. I wouldn't have been all for it, but I would have understood. I wouldn't have been mad at them. I would have just said, man, that's a bad business decision. But they just recently took an even further step towards progress of not being stupid, and made it so that all those countries, or at least 130 of those countries, I don't know what the total number of banned countries is, but 130 of the countries that were previously on not allowed to buy the game, they were from banned countries, but countries that did not have access to the PSN network, are now allowed to buy the game on Steam and can play the game on Steam. So it seems a lot like they're backtracking from that PSN account network. I watched the video of one of their like fireside chats recently, and while they're still saying they are very much for live service games and they want to continue with live service games, they are trying to find ways to make games more accessible to people, trying to work with game developers more to make sure the game's the product that they want and everyone's happy. They really do seem to be like trying to be the good guy Greg in this situation of like, hey, we screwed up. We recognize that we screwed up. We heard the outcry, and we are trying to be better. So in my mind, like, Sony's getting a lot of good grace back. They're being better. But the big news here is now all those countries that had not been able to buy, or the people in those countries that had not been able to buy and play Helldivers 2, are now able to buy and play Helldivers 2 because they're revoking that requirement, and it seems like they may not be having that requirement on future games as well. But what do you think about that, Mammoth? That's my intro. What do you think?
It's a good player.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we can't deny that. It's a great player from Sony, right?
Yeah.
But holy shit. A year later, they went, maybe we should change this.
A year and 11 days. It took 376 days. Did I do that math right? Yeah, 376 days for them to finally say, you know what? Maybe this was really, really bad. Like, it's, like you said, good play. Took them a while to get there.
Like, imagine the state of what Helldivers could have been if it wasn't for if they just made that, revert that change.
Yeah, and the sheer numbers, like, the growth that got lost, and then the community around it that died, because listen, the 95% of people really don't have the integrity that they will espouse and they'll say about. 95% of people are going to be like, hey, this company made this shitty decision, and how dare they, and I'm never going to support them again. And then they're going to go ahead and buy the Nintendo Switch 2 because it's their favorite thing and they want to do it anyways. But there were a good bit of people I know of that completely stopped playing Helldivers 2 because of it. Yeah. That ruined the community for the game. I stopped playing Helldivers 2 for a very long time until I saw that. It took me a lot longer to realize, because basically the moment I saw that they did that and they were screwing people over, I was like, fuck it, I'm not supporting this game anymore, I'm out. And then months later, I was told, hey, you realize they revoked that like almost immediately. And I was like, oh, okay, I'm going to go back. I'm going to start playing the game again because it's a fun game. And listen, I'm not going to hold. If a company makes a shitty decision, or if people have the ability to change, companies have the ability to change, people and companies have the ability to grow and realize they fucked up. If they make a shitty decision and then they backtrack on it because they're like, you know what? This was not received the way we thought it was. We realized this. A lot of people are upset with this. And whether it's for the economic reason of making the change or they realized they were making an asshole move reason for making the change, they changed. I'm not going to, hold them to the fire for a change that they made kind of thing. Now, if they keep repeatedly doing the same thing and just hoping people are going to forgive them when they backtrack, that's a different thing. But they were willing to admit that they were wrong. They were willing to make the change, unlike like other companies like Nintendo that are just digging their heels in and saying no, we're right. But the damage that they did to the game was insane.
Borderline catastrophic, right? I mean,
yeah.
Like, the player base dropped a lot. It got review bombed, and like a lot of it came back. But like, there's a lot of people like me who basically hadn't played the game. I genuinely hadn't played the game until like the last time we made a video about it.
Yeah, and I only recently started playing the game again, like kind of consistently. I think in December because one of my buddies wanted to start playing it again, and I was like, well, I don't really support what they did here. And then he's like, where they backtrack on that? I was like, oh, okay, then yeah, I'll play the game again. And there's probably a lot of people that just stopped and never got back into it. That's a lot of, and even in that Sony Fireside chat that they talked about, one of their biggest sources of income with this game are microtransactions, which means one of Arrowhead's biggest sources of income from this is the microtransactions. So less players playing the game actively. It's one thing if they're like, oh, they got all these sales and whatever, they're fine. But they were relying on microtransactions for funding to an extent, especially since they have to maintain servers and shit. So they need a constant source of income. I'm dead. So they screwed over not only themselves, but they screwed over Arrowhead because now there's just less people playing the game, less people to make those microtransactions, less funding going to the studio. And it hurt a lot of people. And as much as they said, like, this was always, going to happen, it clearly wasn't that clear to people. If you say, go on.
It was quite literally a pop-up when you very first booted the game up and you never saw it again.
Yeah, and that is something that, like, most people are going to miss. I mean, the amount of stuff that gets missed in, like, EULAs, because it's, you know, a piece of text that no one cares about. Or I mean, if I bought a game and it said, oh yeah, PSN network required but still allowed to play the game, then I would assume that that was not the case. Like I would logically assume that, like, hey, this might not be the case. Also, if you have to buy the game in order to get the clear representation that there are going to be restrictions on how you get to play this game, that's shady as hell. Luckily, like, Steam has the, oh, if you play it for less than 2 hours, you can just refund it right away thing. And luckily, Steam was the really big, or Valve was the really big good guys in this, where when they got this thing where people were getting screwed over, they're like, you know, we're just going to take all the... anyone who wants it gets a refund. Anyone who wants it gets a refund, we're sorry. But it was...
I think it broke... I don't know, don't quote me on this, but I think actually the reason why Valve were giving refunds is because it broke their TOS. They were actually able to bill Sony for it.
Oh, really?
I think so. But don't quote me on that.
Yeah.
I'll do some research and put a little thing on screen. Just
Yeah.
To where I'm at, but...
And I'd
yeah,
be really interested, too, if we could find it. And after we get off recording, I'll look it up, too, to see if I can find it, to look at how much the player base dropped after that. Because realistically, like, like, mathematically, all the people after May 6th, after they revoked the, hey, you don't need your PSN thing, everyone that... And that PSN thing requirement wasn't going to go in effect until, like, May 30th to, like, June sometime, I think. Everyone that had already bought it would have been able to continue playing it. There was nothing... No one was going to be stopped from playing it until, like, May 30th. But I would be very interested in seeing how many people just stopped playing it in protest on May 3rd. And then from May 3rd to, like, May 6th. And then when they finally got their player base back, or when they finally started seeing, like, a spike in player bases, like, players coming back to the game, to see how much of an effect that had on Arrowhead and on the game itself. Because it was a you know, definitely devastating thing for the game. There's a lot of people talking about that. Pirate Software said that he wasn't going to play the game until everyone could play the game. And I know a lot of other people were saying stuff like that. And obviously there's going to be a lot of people that were saying stuff like that were lying, and they were going to play the game anyways because they don't give a shit. But, like, just in number of players... Damn it. In number of players lost and in profit loss. Like, if you could look into, like, okay, the average player is going to spend X number of dollars on the game in microtransactions, and we lost X number of players, how much money did they lose over that period of time, kind of thing. Because that's all math that they factor in. That's all math, like, when they're doing these game development stuff, and they're creating the microtransaction, and they're figuring out, is this game going to be profitable, is it worth it to host servers, etc., etc. That's all math that they do of, okay, we're going to make this much money off of the players, and then we're going to, like, from the initial purchase, and then we're going to make this much money off of, like, the microtransactions, because maybe only 1 in 10 player is buying something, but they're going to be spending $10, so, like, every player is worth an extra dollar, et cetera, et cetera. So just figuring out how much money was lost, how much players were lost from this bad decision. But on the upside, they changed their minds, and they revoked it, and they just recently revoked it to the point of saying, not only are we not going to have this restriction of PSN network, we're not going to restrict the countries that can play this either. Everyone can dive. We can all dive together. You know, what's the Misty Mountains? If we're gonna dive tonight, let us all dive together, or whatever the fuck that song is. I love that song. I do love that song. It's a step in the right direction. From the looks of it, it's something they're not going to do in the future, or at least it seems like, from what was being said and from what little was kind of related to it in the fireside chat, that they're not going to do it in the future. But the thing I have to question them on, and I mentioned this before we started recording, the thing I have to question them on is they claimed that these restrictions, that the PSN account restrictions, were because of the fact that they needed you to sign into that account so that they could manage bad players, they can ban bad players, they can let people appeal bans, etc., etc. It's all about the fact that it is a multiplayer game with open lobbies, that they need to be able to deal with problem players. But the other games that were just removed from the regional restrictions, which, again, step in the right direction, but makes me question whether or not that was ever the case in the first place, or whether or not it was just a tactic to be like, hey, we want more people to have PSN accounts. We want more of their data. We want more targeted advertising. We want people to be more loyal to us because they already have the account. So, hey, why not? Because the other games that were just removed from those were God of War Ragnarok, The Last of Us Part 2 Remastered, and Marvel's Spider-Man 2. All of which are not multiplayer games. One of the theories I saw about why they revoked this was because of the success of Stellar Blade, and them realizing that they really should not be restricting their market. Which again, whether it's for moral or financial reasons, if they're willing to say, I'm wrong and revoke it and make it free to play or make it available to play for everybody, then I'm not going to hold them to the fire for having made a mistake in the past. It's not that big of a deal. If they had, dug their heels in and said, yeah, you still require a PSN network, and all you people that, bought this and it can't get a PSN network, you can get fucked, then that would have been more of a thing that I would have been like, wow, Sony are just dirtbags and I'm done. In this case, it was just a matter of they made a bad decision. They had reasons to make that bad decision. They recognized that it was a bad decision, and they said, oopsie daisies, I'm sorry. Please don't be mad at us. But that bit of it makes me question their reasoning when they had games that were not multiplayer games that were still restricted in the countries that could not have a PSN network.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of my thoughts on the matter.
So just quickly on the Stellar Blade, I'm looking on the Steam DB page, and if I'm reading this right, I think I am. The tool that you can get directly from Steam say they are not in 10 countries, which I believe is what everything else says. So that's like that's reverted essentially. That's what they quote unquote should be.
Yeah, right? And there's always going to be countries where like a game's not going to be available, like China.
I think
China's gonna unless you're willing to make ridiculous concessions. Which honestly, if you're making those concessions to go to China, that's a worse integrity move to me than saying these countries can't have this game kind of thing. Because now you're crippling a game, you're destroying a game to make it available for China. And
I'm
you're
assuming
making it available.
Political reasons. I'm assuming it's banned in these countries for political reasons.
Yeah,
because there's like Cuba, North Korea, Russia, Vietnam, Syria. So. That makes sense, but there is a depot. I don't know what depot it is. It was updated 11 days ago that says it isn't available in 132 countries.
Yeah,
but the actual game itself is fine. Oh no, that was it. That'll be why.
So
that depot would have been planned. That was updated 11 days ago, but the game didn't release until 6 days ago. So they changed it before it released.
Gotcha.
But I'm pretty sure that we were winning the war. I'm not saying you didn't help. All right? I'm saying you were the final nail in the coffin.
But yeah, that was right. I think this is a good step in the right direction for Sony. I think they're realizing that limiting these things with PSN Network is not a good idea. I think it probably is true that the release of Stellar Blade and the success of Stellar Blade helped them do really well. I also think the losses that Helldivers suffered made them realize, maybe this policy we have isn't the truth. Is not a good idea. Is not an intelligent financial move for us. Do I think they're doing it for moral reasons? Not necessarily. I think it's an entirely financial thing. I think it's just now they're realizing it's more financially beneficial to them to not have these arbitrary PSN requirements, and instead, let developers release the game the way they want to release them and not restrict players. So I think it's good. I think it's good. I think it's a good thing.
Yep. Hopefully Sony continue to do good things. Hopefully this inspires other companies to do more good things.
Yep.
And even outside of the Sony thing, I genuinely look forward to see what Arrowhead do next.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm just gonna say, Sony and Nintendo, they're both Japanese companies. They're bitter rivals. Sony is backing Palworld, Nintendo's fighting Palworld, but Sony's making actual good decisions that are good for the players and not actively trying to hurt people. and Nintendo sucks.
We'll see how long that keeps up.
We'll
though.
see. We'll
We've
see.
seen Sony do some dumb
Yeah.
stuff in the past,
And one of the
fix it,
things,
and then continue to do more dumb stuff.
yeah, and one of the things I didn't mention earlier, but I kind of do want. I wonder is how much of this decision came out because Arrowhead said we're going to self-publish next, and not necessarily because we're so worried we're going to lose Arrowhead, but they're worried how many more of these third-party developers are going to start self-publishing because of this kind of thing.
Not necessarily self-publishing, but going to Microsoft and getting all the stuff that comes with that. 'Cause
Yeah.
they are on apps. They are gung ho with trying to get indie devs on their side.
Yeah, 100%.
Game Pass and stuff.
And how much it is now? They're just worried they're going to start losing third-party developers.
Yeah, 100%. It's you get more people buying the PlayStation and sticking with PlayStation rather than going to competitor. Because let's be honest, post-launch, Sony have been a bit in the bin, whereas Xbox may have lost the initial launch, but have definitely gained a lot of credit since then with a lot of the games that have came out and have been genuinely really good.
Yeah. It's
Not that they're perfect, but
yeah, it's there's a lot of reasons, and ultimately I don't care about the reason because ultimately they are making the right decision now. It's a step forward. Hopefully it stays. Hopefully it sticks.
fingers crossed.
Yeah, but gonna end off there. Outro time. Stop abusive misuse of patent law by video game developers over there. Check out my other videos on the Nintendo drama or just general ranting stuff over here. I'm activating memberships as soon as Google reactivates my AdSense. There's a bunch of stuff that'll appear on screen here that says what you get out of that. Please leave a like and a subscribe and leave a comment about what you might want me to talk about next, or just follow for the constant updates on the Nintendo Power World drama. Okay, bye.
Reinforcement! Calling in extraction!